Hello, denizens of the internet. Today, I want to take you through the pilot episode of one of the best TV series of all time that you've probably never heard of. The Sandbaggers by Ian McIntosh, starring Roy Marsden, Ray Lonan, Jerome Willis, Rob Sherman, Alan McNaughton, and many, many more British actors that I'm sure you'll recognize. It's a British spy series that ran from 1978 to 1980. It might have run longer, except that McIntosh, the creator and writer, died under mysterious circumstances befitting the show itself. Never has a series about British bureaucracy been so taut and thrilling, and I'm not even being sarcastic. The stories are about an elite covert operations section of British intelligence, SIS, nicknamed the Sandbaggers. Marsden plays Neil Burnside, a former sandbagger, who is now their boss. The show dealt with mostly Cold War stories, which was still a big deal in the time of its broadcast. Neil is obsessively dedicated, often to avoid dealing with personal demons. Burnside's main antagonist is the bureaucracy itself, conspiring against him at every turn from doing his job, which was to send his team into danger and then getting them out safely. The tension is palpable. And when there's action, it happens so fast that if you blink, you'll miss it. No drawn-out fistfights or gun battles featuring endless rounds whizzing about people's heads. It's a show where a lot of nothing happens and you are on the edge of your seat. Today, I want to take you through the pilot episode, which is a masterclass on how to set up characters, use subtext to introduce relationships, and to show that a little action goes a long way. The pilot is called First Principles. I won't play the music, but it's brilliant and becomes very anticipatory once you start watching the show. You can see from the montage that there are lots of phones and people walking about because there is a lot of that in the show. "I'll be right there" is uttered frequently. Here we have Neil. He gives a look back. That is what we call Chekhov's gun. That means if you show a gun, you have to use the gun. Neil gets to his office. He is moving deliberately. The desk-level view shows us a phone, a deluxe-looking intercom, and a red phone. That usually means a direct line to someone important. Therefore, our main character is important.
Got a query.
So have I. Hang on.
He has something he wants to deal with immediately. Willie has a need, but it has to be put aside for the
Head
moment.
of security.
Already we know that our main character works in the heart of a large city. Of course, it's London. He has a secretary and his own office. This means he has management responsibilities and some status. We meet Willie, who is the co-star of the series right off the bat. So we know the environment. We know the main characters very, very quickly into the show. Neil doesn't say, "Hi, Willie." He says, "Come in, Willie." It's an order. It means something is up. It's an actionable request. The camera moves to favor Neil in the foreground. He asks for head of security. And no, not the guy eating a donut in the warehouse.
It's DOPS.
Neil announces with some impatience, it's DOPS.
Mickey, Neil.
In this briefest of exchanges, we see Neil having to deal with the bureaucracy, and we find out who he is without a B-roll shot of his door plate. He also used the abbreviated lingo of his profession. For those not in the know, DOPS means Director of Operations.
Minor random surveillance check. Yes, we'll tell them they're not very good. Front-tail's old hat, couldn't miss it. Huh. Random check. We might as well wave a placard.
I just flushed mine as well.
What?
They're checking me as well.
And they fire Chekhov's gun. We find out that Willie noticed he was being tailed also.
No, they're not. They wouldn't dare break that rule.
Which?
Well, they can't put me under surveillance unless they tell the deputy chief, and they can't check a sandbagger unless they tell me.
Wonder if it's the KGB planning to put a woman alongside me.
More likely to be MI5 again, using us to train their recruits. Well, let's make sure. And then we'll teach them a lesson.
Shall I get Jake to backtrail me?
Yes, tell him to pick up your Chato, see where it belongs.
Then we learn more about where Neil sits in the bureaucratic hierarchy and a quick plan to suss out what is going on. Neil tells Willie to grab another sandbagger. A bit more inside baseball lingo, and we're on a small side mission. That's 3 minutes and 12 seconds, including the intro, and we already know they work in drab government offices. We have a vague idea of what they are involved in the spy biz. We get introduced to the lead characters. We see that they are men of action. Neil does not hesitate giving orders. It's clear that Willie has respect for Neil and his leadership. We can see that they are veterans of this business. A small, non-life-threatening event is a better introduction than diving into a massive, complex A-plot, though in this case it will connect. We get an intriguing 2-minute silent spy tailing spy sequence. We can clearly see some kind of handoff between the tailors. And the first one is followed to the Norwegian embassy. It holds our interest because of the mystery, and it's a nice little example of show, don't tell. It also gives us a bit of a hint of how boring the spy business is most of the time. Then we get the deliciously incredulous punchline of,
The Norwegians?
which sounds almost Python-esque.
Must be using us for training value.
Damn cheek. Diane,
Yes.
get onto the Scandinavian desk, will you? Ask if the Norwegians have got a station chief in London.
I checked before I came up.
And?
It's better than that. They've got a new chief of service. He's here in London at the moment. A man called Torvik. Lars Torvik.
Neil calls his secretary Diane to ask for information, but Jake already has what Neil asks for because he's good at his job. It also compresses the exposition.
Well, that's what it's all about. He's testing his agents on a foreign station.
Mickey Mouse time.
Yes, well, somebody better point out this isn't Disneyland.
Scene ends on a great punchline. Neil doesn't say, "Oh, I'm going to do something about it," which would have been fine. He riffs off of Jake's line, "Mickey Mouse time."
Please sit down, Mr. Burnside.
Thank you.
It's a great pleasure to meet you. But
The
also a
scene
disappointment.
gets to the point quickly,
Yes, your office
and Neil
response
is
is followed.
pissed.
Exactly.
I apologize.
That's not good enough here, Torvik. My officers have more to do than check out the antics of a NATO ally.
Oh, yes, I know. But you belong to the oldest and most respected secret service in the world. I have charge of a rather newer and less professional one. We have great need of practical training, and I thought that if my men could remain undetected by your Willie Kane, Landy, Denson, a 3-man special operations section.
For a fledgling service, you're quite well informed.
Oh, it's jealousy, Mr. Burnside. I would give my right arm for your 3 sandbaggers.
Yes, well, they spend most of their time shoveling paper from in trade to out trade.
But they are there, ready and capable, and I cannot even bring my station officers up to standard, let alone form a special section.
All these things take time. You've recognized the weaknesses. That's halfway to rectifying them. But not by playing games with SIS.
No.
So what was great about this scene is that when a peer speaks with another peer, the exposition ends up as shop talk. Neil is not discussing this with some store clerk. Torvik reveals his ulterior motive and so starts the A-plot.
We have an operation in Norway today. A very big one. Maybe we could do a deal.
What sort of deal?
If I pass the results to your intelligence directorate, would you help me with operational training?
I can ask.
Who would approve it? Your chief of service? See?
The deputy chief. Matthew Peel.
The Norwegians?
Well, I'd rather they came to us than went to the CIA.
I thought you were very matey with the CIA.
Not to the extent of sharing mistresses.
But the Norwegians? What have they got? 2 men and a reindeer?
Something like that.
Did Torvik say what this wonderful operation entails?
Seemed impolite to ask.
Well, let's wait to see what he has to offer first. But I wouldn't get too excited about it.
Matthew Peel is my second favorite character in the series, the epitome of an officious, preening bureaucrat. I loved the character bit where he fussed over his plant. How good was that? Neil brings up the CIA, another Chekhov's gun. It would not be unnatural to bring up the CIA, but in the hands of a great writer, it will come back, and it does.
And Mr. Lars Torvik is being escorted up from reception.
Torvik?
All right to get him up, wasn't it?
Yes, but don't offer him coffee. I've more to do than philosophize on the theory of intelligence.
Here, Neil shows his disdain for Torvik and how he has no interest in working with amateurs. We see Neil sign papers because paper pushing is his bane.
Mr. Burnside, it is good of you to see me at such short notice. Something bad has happened. My operation in Norway has gone wrong.
Torvik reveals that the mission he mentioned in the first meeting has gone awry and needs the help of the Sandbaggers for a search and rescue inside Russia.
But we do have a line of bearing
Putting the aircraft where?
in very wild country. There is a good chance that the Russians do not know it is there.
Well, it won't remain undetected for long. Sandbaggers don't have magical powers. You're asking me to parachute one of my officers into the Kola Peninsula to bring out an ill-assorted bunch of scientists, some of whom may be injured, overland, through an area crawling with Russian troops.
This is not a national issue, Mr. Burnside. It's a NATO one. You know the northern flank is indefensible if we give the Russians the least excuse to cross
Well,
that
what
border.
can you offer in return?
Neil reveals here that there needs to be a quid pro quo, or he can't convince his higher-ups to help with such a job. The subtext is that he doesn't want this job, or, more importantly, to risk one of his sandbaggers.
We have nothing. That is why I mounted this operation, to get something, anything to trade.
Well, then we can't help.
Your deputy chief, or C.
Neither of them would look at it.
There is the diplomatic approach. My ambassador is seeing your foreign secretary.
The answer would be the same.
With the CIA.
You're wasting time. Time better spent in trying to get to those scientists yourself.
Then I will rely on the approach to your foreign secretary.
I wouldn't.
Well, thank you for seeing me.
I'm sorry.
Torvik is angry, but they leave on cordial terms, or so it seems. Torvik is determined to use diplomatic pressures. Burnside meets with Peel.
And the Kola Peninsula of all places.
I'm somewhat relieved that we never get approval. Although when the Russians find that plane, there's going to be one hell of a nausea.
Not our problem.
It's everyone's problem anytime the Russians want to stroll across that border.
Neil is happy that it looks like his department is off the hook for the mission. He takes pleasure in saying that he'd never get approval anyway. This time he seems to be happy that the inefficient bureaucracy is working in his favor for a change.
Going to get left in the lurch someday. And they know it.
The phone rings.
Peel.
It's Sir Geoffrey Wellingham. Peel tries to make small talk in his obsequious way and is disappointed that he wants to talk to Neil. Of course, we learn that Sir Geoffrey is
Good afternoon,
Neil's
sir.
ex-father-in-law.
Very well, sir, thank you. Burnside is with me now, sir. Just hold on a moment. Your ex-father-in-law taking the trouble to track you down to my office.
Burnside. Well, I come over now if it's convenient. Right. He wants to see me urgently.
What about?
Oh, he didn't say.
You know, I'm not very keen on this direct line between you and Wellingham.
He sent for me.
I know. But he is the permanent Under-Secretary of State. You should talk to C. Or me.
Maybe you could marry his daughter.
That is not very funny.
No, it wasn't funny for me either.
Peel tells Burnside that he doesn't like this special relationship Neil has with Sir Geoffrey that lets Neil jump the bureaucratic queue. Neil sardonically delivers, "Maybe you can marry his daughter." One of the few times he smiles in the series. Peel takes offense to Neil's joke because he's a pompous ass, and the scene ends with Neil dropping his smile, telling us how he really felt. We have learned so much about the characters and their relationships without a hint of monologuing. More walking, lots of walking in this show. Sir Geoffrey offers Neil tea, of course. Very civilized, because it's hiding bad news to come.
Things first. I have a message for you from Belinda.
Yes.
She's found some old notebooks of yours in her attic. From your time in the Marines, I believe. Do you want them back?
No, thanks. She can dish them.
Right.
We're not sure which is worse, finding out that one of your sandbaggers has died, or your ex-wife wants something from you. But in this case, the subtext is that Sir Geoffrey would really love it if Neil would get back together with his daughter. We do find out that Neil was in the Marines. Again, backstory is side-loaded. No one is saying, "Oh, remember that time in the Marines? What a jolly time that was."
The Norwegians seem to have got themselves a bit of a problem. Rather a nasty one.
Yes, I know about it.
Oh? How?
Torvik came to see me this lunchtime.
Who?
The chief of their intelligence service.
And what did you tell him?
But we couldn't help.
Oh. That's a pity.
Sorry.
The scene deliciously unfolds as the government has different ideas about the Norwegian rescue operation from SIS.
We want SIS to carry out the rescue operation. I can tell you that the Norwegians did not expect something for nothing. And even so, the Foreign Secretary drove a very hard bargain.
Tell me more.
You know about the British Nemesis missile? Medium-range air-to-air thing?
Yes, I've read about it.
The Americans have a similar weapon called War Bonnet, at the same stage of development.
Yes.
If SIS does the Kohler job, and quickly, the Norwegians will buy Nemesis. If SIS refuses, they'll approach the CIA and offer to take War Bonnet instead.
Good. Let them go to the CIA. War Bonnet's probably a better missile anyway.
Neil, you are aware that there's a world outside the four corners of your headquarters?
Sorry? Look, sir, I'm sorry if people are put out of work. Just as sorry if Nemesis collapses. But I'll be even more sorry if one of my sandbaggers gets killed in Russia.
Neil, I don't think you've yet quite grasped the position. You and I are debating this strictly under the old Powells Act. However, at this very moment, the Foreign Secretary is in Downing Street. The operation has the Prime Minister's blessing, and a directive is winging its way to SIS.
Talk about shooting first and asking questions after.
Good luck with it.
You have to love this kind of stuff, especially the part about the Nemesis project being in trouble and delayed. Neil, of course, does not care about the politics of supporting the British aerospace industry. And, of course, the discussion was all for naught, as it's already gone to the Prime Minister and the mission is a go. Peel is of no help. We're off to C, who can't help Neil either.
And Neil, I do appreciate the problems. Let me know if I can help.
Thank you, sir.
Quick meeting with Torvik, who is anxious to get started. Neil makes it clear that it has to be properly planned
to go
first.
to Norway?
When the mission's planned.
Oh, Mr. Burnside, we must not waste time.
Yeah, Torvik, I never waste time.
Which clearly irks Torvik.
I think this is just about the craziest idea you've come up with.
Willie, it's not my idea.
Jeff Ross is being escorted up from reception.
Oh,
Can you see him?
right. Well, that's all we need. CIA problems as well.
Swap this for anything the CIA might have.
Right.
Mr. Ross, sir.
Hi, Neil.
Hello, Jeff.
Willie?
Oh, Diane,
How
you
you
have an
doing?
appointment with Wellingham as soon as possible, will you?
Yes.
Don't take no for an answer.
No?
You catch us at a moment of panic.
Yeah, I can tell. Geography lesson?
No, we're planning our holidays.
Malta's good for holidays.
Right.
Any special section effort available?
No.
Nothing like a straight answer. Now, the thing is, we've got a little job in Malta. And as you guys like to think you still own the place,
Can't take it, Jeff.
well, I can offer a load of goodies in exchange.
We're committed. And I suppose it's safer to tell you why.
Right.
Ask your lot to keep away from the Kola Peninsula for the next day or two.
Yeah, okay. Can I give him a reason?
The Norwegians have lost a spy plane somewhere inside Soviet territory. We're going to try and recover the crew.
What do you want to do a crazy thing like that for?
We're asking the same question.
Well, my Maltese problems just pale into insignificance.
Yes, well, we're too polite to ask you to do the same thing. But Diane will see you back to reception.
I think I just left.
Wellingham at 4:15.
Oh, will it? Good. Yeah, send me a postcard.
Got a sense of humor like the Marquis de Sade.
Okay, now what do you think?
Well, before we go in, I think someone had better find out exactly where the plane is.
Yes, well, I hope Wellingham's in a good mood.
What I like about this scene is that it demonstrates the spy fraternity. Many times the CIA and SIS will be at odds, as they will be here later, but it's clear as far as Burnside is concerned, having good relations with your competition is preferred. Birds of a feather. I loved how Jeff immediately recognized the insanity of the Norwegian mission, and also how his reason for being there is less important, leaving with his own "send me a postcard" punchline. These are great jokes in context. How could you not love this?
I don't know about that.
Look, sir, if we use the dropping aircraft to spot the wreck, it'll have to go in low and slow.
Yes.
It'll have to fly straight down the line, a steady, predictable course,
Easily detected.
and more easily intercepted. But if we can pinpoint the crash position in advance of the drop, well, then we stand a fighting chance.
RAF aircraft penetrating Soviet airspace for a few photos.
They could do it with a Jaguar. I mean, in and out before the Russians could blink.
Different ball game, Neil. It's one thing to put a Secret Service agent into Russia, quite another to send in a fighter plane.
Well, the RAF have got to go in anyway to drop the Sandbaggers.
I'll be happy about it.
Then they can join the club.
All right. I'll see if I can get approval from Downing Street. And I'll get you a meeting with the RAF.
This evening?
Yes. Vice Chief of the Air Staff, I should think.
Cut to the Flyboys meeting. More jargon. There is the RAF bureaucrat accompanied by the no-nonsense professional. What I love is how everyone knows their stuff. Every detail has an explanation. The show is educating us how things
The
work.
low-level Jaguar recce is simple enough. In fact, there should be a Jaguar on its way to Norway now to stand by. But the parachute drop's another matter.
I appreciate that.
The scientists were briefed to remain with the aircraft, but they...
Standard procedure.
Good, good. Now, our masters are not at all keen to use an aircraft with military markings for the actual operation. The Jaguar can take its chances. But parachuting chaps into Russia...
It's a long way on a bicycle.
But don't worry, we've been on to British Aerospace, and they're quite prepared to help.
What sort of aircraft?
An HO-748. Best aircraft in the world for this sort of job.
Yes, understood. You're on. We'll get written confirmation this evening.
Of course, things have
Thank
to
you
be
very
signed
much.
off on.
The Jaguar will make its run at first light.
Nice plane. Probably took most of the budget of the episode to set it up. Stock film of a Jaguar flying about. Shots of acknowledgement.
That could have been the dropping plane with the agents.
When are you going to learn? To plot an escape route, we need to know the exact position of the crash.
Seems to me you're more concerned with your sandbaggers than those scientists.
Well, you bet your life I am. The aerial photos on the way back to us now. As soon as we get them, we'll plot an escape route. Then the sandbaggers will brief and go.
To jump when?
As soon as possible.
Today?
Tomorrow.
If it's bad weather tomorrow, then the next day.
I said as soon as possible.
Burnside with a bitter, impatient Torvik.
And how far inside Russian territory?
About 50 miles.
Back with C. More complications.
I think there is no hope in hell. But I can ask for a diversionary tactic on the border.
Troop movement?
Well, the border's, say, 80 to 90 miles long. As soon as we fix where we're going to take them out, we can ask the Norwegians to move up troops to another part. Well, we've got to try and pull the Russians out of their path.
You won't get NATO troops moving up to that border.
The whole of Westminster is treating us like lepers.
We're a lot worse off than lepers.
Ops room where all the action is happening is furious. Phones ringing, people smoking. It's all very exciting.
And they've got to be low on food and water.
You'll have survival ration packs, Phil. Ration? What are we, Meals on Wheels as well?
Right, what's all this?
Mission planning's recommended escape route, sir.
Why the dogleg?
To avoid Russian military positions, sir.
They've got to go north-northwest to make the border. But if they go direct, they'll hit a military camp here. If they go too far north, there's a defended radar installation here. So they've got to pass between the two.
Putting 30 to 40 miles on the journey.
Yeah. Some joker's idea of a scenic route.
Willie?
Weather and terrain, Ted?
It could be quite bright, a bit cold. And where there'll be tundra come moorland. Should manage 3 miles an hour if the scientists aren't hurt.
Night travel only.
No, sir. Straight push. We reckon that darkness may give the Russians less chance of spotting them, but more chance of them running into the Russians. Well, we'll say we're on a nature ramble. Or a lunatic's outing. They'd have to believe that, wouldn't they?
Right, Sandbagger 1 to see me on completion of briefing, please.
Burnside is fed up with Willie's jokes. Not the time for it.
You're going to have your unmentionables torn off.
Good. I'm just in the mood for a punch-up.
Herr Torvik at the Norwegian Embassy.
Right.
Well?
Well, what?
You're my lead sandbagger. I don't expect you to behave at briefings like a spoiled child.
All right, you jump out of the plane tomorrow morning.
I did my time in the section, and as far as I can recall, I didn't sulk about it.
How many times did you parachute into Russia?
Look, if you've got mission twitch, you
If
should
I
have
didn't
spoken
have
up-
mission twitch on this, I'd be a right idiot.
Nice scene where emotions boil over. Would this ever have happened? I don't know, but some drama in a dry TV show
Wellingham says this
is
country needs the
necessary.
Norwegian interests. Both Nemesis and War Bonnet are on the point of collapse.
Yeah, the one that keeps going will get orders from every NATO country, make a lot of money.
Right.
When I'm digging salt, I remember that.
I rang the Norwegian embassy.
Yes?
Herr Torvik's gone. Been recalled to Norway.
God, wonderful. He pressurizes us to go in. When we do, he's pushed off to see the wife.
He didn't mention it when I saw him this morning.
Torvik has disappeared. A mystery.
I've got to get to Norway myself. Morning. You sleep all right?
Well,
The Sandbaggers prepare to take off. A bit of talk humanizing the two that
First time I've
heightens
been
the
to Norway.
danger. They are the real deal,
let's hope it
not
isn't the
two
last.
James
How do
Bonds.
you feel?
Sick.
Burnside meets with Sir Geoffrey. As is usually the case in these shows, some bureaucratic decision makes the mission more difficult. This cranks up the heat.
The answer on the diversionary tactic is a firm and unequivocal no. We did push, I promise you, but there's a real fear that the Russians would overreact.
Yes, well, I didn't have very high hopes anyway.
One other thing. The Norwegian ambassador came to see the foreign secretary yesterday with a complaint.
What sort of complaint?
Friend Torvik has told his masters that you're stalling.
Oh, but that's nonsense.
The aircraft will be leaving for the drop within 10 minutes.
Does Torvik know that?
I sent him a message to Oslo Station saying we hope to make the drop this morning.
Hoped.
Looks like more to do than worry about his paranoia.
Then we get a wonderful fog-bound long shot of the Sandbaggers walking to the plane.
Inside?
Duty Operations Officer, sir. Message from Torvik through Oslo Station. Please cancel operation. No further requirement. With many thanks.
What?
Now we get the plot twist that raises the stakes dramatically. This was all set up by Torvik's impatience.
Can we abort the mission?
No chance, sir. They drop right now.
Send an abort anyway. I'm coming down.
Right.
Diane! I'll be in the ops room.
Wait. Right, got it. From Jeff Ross, abort the job. Coming to see you urgently.
Ross, what the hell's going on?
Jeff is coming up to see Neil immediately. We see the jump take place. No turning back. A little bit of parachuting gear porn. The extended scene that is surprisingly serene is designed to set up the fireworks to come.
Sorry. Did you abort the Cola mission?
Too late. They're already in. All right, Jeff, what's going on?
Okay, now look, Neil. I reported to Langley, and I told him you were backing the Norwegians. Okay. And then some bright young genius there decided to offer CIA help to Torvik. Well, Torvik declined, then he said SIS had everything in hand. But yesterday morning, Torvik contacted the CIA. Now, he said you were dragging your feet. You just didn't want to do the job. And at the same time, the Norwegian ambassador contacted the Secretary of State. He said that if the CIA would come in, we
The Norwegians would buy the war-bonnet missile.
Yeah.
So when are you lot going in?
They're in. An hour ago.
What?
Terrific, isn't it? They reckon to have spotted the aircraft from comparative satellite tracings. They went straight in there, got briefed on the run. Neil, it all went through our station chief at Oslo. I swear to God, I only just heard about it myself.
It's how Kane hears about it that worries me.
Cut to Jake and Willie arriving at the Norwegian plane. They observe at a distance. There's no one there. Another mystery.
It's not that long since the 748 went over. I should have got them running about a bit.
If they've broken orders, decided to hoof it, they could be.
They saw the Jaguar. They know we're on the way.
Your people went in when?
0840 local.
And they've mined the plane on delayed charges?
Yeah, they will have.
And they're set for between 45 and 60 minutes.
Willie and Jake.
If those charges are big enough to destroy an aircraft, they won't have any trouble splattering my two all over Russia.
Suddenly, the Sandbaggers are in danger of getting blown up.
There's something wrong with this. You stay here, I'll go.
You want me to go?
Should only volunteer when you really mean it.
Luckily, Willie doesn't get his willy blown off.
Take the equipment out, not blow it up. All right, now look at the pattern. Explosion on a time setting, the scientist's long gone.
It's the same brief as ours.
Ross.
What?
We told Ross to tell Langley.
Why would the CIA muscle him?
Oh, God knows.
And these two professionals start putting the pieces together.
Northwest.
We might catch them.
Oh, we ought to try. Give him a hand.
They head off to support the CIA.
But why on earth did you tell the CIA in the
Now we have
To avoid
Burnside
just
with
this
Peel
kind of
and
power.
C. Just the kind of managerial update one would expect in any business.
Everything, yes.
And Kane has no form of radio?
The idea was that as soon as they'd use the explosive, they'd be carrying no incriminating equipment at all.
It's not going to look very clever on a report to the Foreign Secretary. Even worse, sir, if Kane and Landy are taken prisoner.
We have done exactly the right thing at exactly the right time at every stage.
Small consolation to the Prime Minister if he's faced with an international incident.
Oh, so that's it.
Yes, Neil. That's always it.
Nice button to the scene. cut to the outskirts of Scotland. Russia.
Come on, slow it down, fellas.
Willie and Jake spot the Norwegians and the CIA and try to close the gap.
Oh, we're gaining on them.
The group are going in the wrong direction. I like the fact that they aren't superhuman and huffing and puffing.
Right.
But it's too late. The Russians have found them.
Poor bastards. And they've done us the greatest favor of all time. What? Oh, we needed something to occupy the Russians.
Got them all there. Rescuers and the rescued.
Scene with Neil and Jeff. This is my favorite one, where we learn the Americans want the war bonnet missile sale just as badly. The fact that both systems are a bit of a fraud is a big black joke. Also that Ross thinks the Nemesis system is ahead of war bonnet, and Neil says nothing. It's all so delicious.
Neil, the war bonnet missile is a complete mess. We're overspent on development. There's a problem with the warhead. It's late in its production schedule. And all the time, your Nemesis missile just keeps getting further ahead of us. Neil, look, you've got no idea how the U.S. government can screw the CIA.
No idea at all.
Neil, let's just hope they all get out, okay?
Well, we'll know tomorrow forenoon.
How?
Because if they're not out by then, they won't be coming.
I hate to tell you this.
Go on.
I reckon we're about 7 miles
Yeah.
inside Norway.
What?
Both Sandbaggers are out undetected.
Oh, I am pleased.
Unfortunately, the CIA officers and the Norwegians were captured.
Oh. So both of us went in, but neither of us saved the Norwegian nationals.
No.
So we're all square with the Norwegian government. No, better than that. We're in a position of strength.
What?
Well, don't you see? Our agents went in and back again. So if the Norwegians had stayed with us, if we can get back to them quickly enough on the Nemesis missile...
Is that all you can think about?
Well, that's what it was all about, Neil. Let's not lose sight of first principles.
No, sir, let's never do that.
Can you manage dinner this evening?
I'm sorry, I've got to go to Oslo to see Torvik.
Now, tread carefully, Neil. Remember, Norway is still a very valued ally.
That's why Torvik and I have got to understand each other.
The meeting with Sir Geoffrey is brilliant. The game of international chess never ends. Establishing shot of Norwegian airport. Neil and Torvik meet in some place nicely dressed up to look like a Norwegian arrival gate.
My car's outside.
Yes, I'm going back on the same plane.
Then what did you come for?
An explanation for a start.
I could not wait for days while you did nothing. The Americans were willing to go in at once.
And a lot of good it did them. One of these days, you'll have a special operations capability of your own. So I've come here to tell you something. Special operations doesn't mean going in with all guns blazing. It means special planning, special care. Fully briefed agents in possession of all possible alternatives. If you want James Bond, go to your library. But if you want a successful operation, sit at your desk and think. And then think again.
I understand.
Our battles aren't fought at the end of a parachute. They're won and lost in drab, dreary corridors in Westminster. And hopefully in Oslo.
Yes. Well, thank you for being so restrained. Oh, you have a few minutes. Maybe we could take a drink together.
I've got nothing to celebrate.
Well, nonetheless, I would like to buy you a drink.
Hey, Torvik, if I had a glass in my hand at this moment, I'd shove it down your throat.
The show started with Norwegian agents fumbling around trying to gain experience. It ends with Neil dressing down the fumbling head of Norwegian intelligence. The battles are won in drab, dreary Westminster. That totally sums up Sandbaggers as a series. In the end, Burnside cannot help himself, calmly and thoroughly, undiplomatically, revealing how angry he is. And there you go. What did you think? Not a single shot was fired. No one was killed. No hand-to-hand combat in tight corridors. This pilot episode told us everything we needed to know. What the show was about. We got introduced to all the main characters and got an idea of the role they will be playing. We even learned about Neil's ex-wife, and we didn't even see her in the show. And I assure you, it only gets better from here on in. One shocking episode still remains with me to this day. As far as I know, it's only available for streaming on BritBox, but yeah, you can search that stuff out yourself. There's this thing called the internet. Good luck. Till next time, denizens, be seeing you.